So this is how I finished off my painting with the night sky. So I have a gecko there, and it's a tokay gecko licking its eye, and foot's up against the tank, so you can see I think they're called lamellae, if I remember correctly. I have a bedside table there with a book, and it turned out really well, I think. And then today's painting, the evening sky didn't turn out as great, but you know what? I don't care. So this was already, I have a hard time with it. Maybe it's just because it's so dry here in Lethbridge in the winter in my house. I don't know. But I have a hard time. I put the water on I put so much water, the paper came up from, the tape didn't work anymore. But I still couldn't get once I wet down the paper, I got up here and it was already drying and I couldn't get the things to blend. So the one thing worked out well, smudging out the sun, and the rays of light, I guess they're okay. So there's some good things from it, and that's the last of the watercolor skies. I'm now on to mountain, so I'm done the skies DVD. And I finished off this one with the flowers there, and my passion flowers look pretty good, so I feel pretty good about that. And this James's meal today, it's a sandwich, cupcake, and peas and veggies and stuff. I'm going to talk about the Haunting of Sharon Tate, which starred Hilary Duff. And
Hilary Duff.
Totally. And
well, Sharon Tate was one of the best looking women in Hollywood.
Eckhart Tolle, Bringing Stillness into Everyday Life. Charlie Chan, the Treasure Island, and Elena. So that's my lineup that I'm going to be talking about today. As soon as I put this away. So I'm sure James will have something to say about that.
The Sharon Tate thing?
Once I
pretty sure.
Because yeah. Anyway, I'll get this stuff put away and then I'll be right back. So you can talk for a minute, James.
Oh yeah, I don't know if this is just like made up or if it's kind of based. Eckhart Tolle. Tolle means crazy in German. T-O-L-E. So these are about her dreams. They seem to think that she had premonitory dreams, being killed by the Manson family. I mean, Manson would have been hanging around, maybe even when she was there. He had this way of ingratiating himself with certain people in Hollywood and the extended area. Got on better with the nascent hippie movement. Apparently hung with Neil Young. He definitely hung with Dennis Wilson. Wilson was absolutely flabbergasted with Charlie's way with women and stuff like that. And who else did he hang with? So that's Dennis Wilson with the Beach Boys. Anyway, the list goes on and on. I think a lot of the folks were trying to distance themselves from Charlie. I don't think Neil Young entirely did. He wrote a song about it on the 74 album, maybe it was, On the Beach. And it's not a very strong album, but the strongest song on it, the one about Charlie Manson. But, like he probably was taking his life in his hands, you couldn't, I suspect, speak ill about the big founder of that religion called Mansonism. And, Squeaky Fromm, some people say she had a gun that didn't work when she attempted to assassinate Jerry Ford. I don't know. Like, why would she do that? I mean, didn't Charlie Manson kill people? Like, what's the story? Anyway, go ahead.
So, I wasn't actually wanting to watch this because I didn't want to get all scared or anything. But then once I turned it on, I was very glad that I borrowed this from the library.
Oh, it's okay.
Like James was saying, this is based on the story of Sharon Tate's dreams and the Manson family nightmare. That's what it says on the back. And it says that 26-year-old pregnant Hollywood actress Sharon Tate becomes plagued by visions of her imminent death at the hands of the Manson family. So, I didn't know. I guess James had known about this, that she had premonitions.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Oh. I possibly have read about it, and it just doesn't mean much to me. I mean, she might have been having some nightmares or stuff like that, and then people remembered. I mean, how would we know? She wasn't around to check, like, what were you dreaming about? So, anyone who hung with Manson would have had to have creeps about him. So, I don't know if she ever met him. But he'd been to that place before, the place where he whacked her and 3 other people.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but so this may be totally fiction then. I have no idea. Or it might be, that
someone dreaming in Technicolor.
It might have been that she had told her husband some things on the phone, and this came from that, or maybe a diary.
Or at least
I don't
they got
know.
that right. He was in Europe, right?
Yeah, he was away at the time. Yeah. So, in any case, however this came about, I was pleasantly surprised with this movie. As you can see, it's the top of my stack. It got the top of the stack rating. When whoever worked on getting this, like, honestly, I didn't think much when I saw Hilary Duff on the cover. I'm like, really? But you know what? She did the job in this. She pulled it off, and everyone who worked on this did. In fact, when Hilary Duff playing Sharon Tate, when she pulls off the sheet and sees her face, and if you watch the movie, you'll see the part that I'm talking about. I cried. I actually cried. It's very moving.
Whose face does she see? Her own? Or?
You'll just have to, her own. But you'll just have to watch the movie because it's worth watching. And who would have thought? But what a powerful story. And it's funny, I remember when I was a teenager, I learned a little more about Manson and stuff like that, and I thought he was pretty stupid, but
he was.
But there was
just not as stupid as his followers.
Yeah, he was trying to bring people in the now. His followers in the now.
I think that comes from Scientology.
And that's wild. And so
I think what that means is into the present. So what he'd do is he'd pull a knife and hold it to their throat. And that has a way of focusing people, stuff like that. The thing to do would be to laugh it off or something like that.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Well,
you just don't know. Like, he might have done that to some people when there weren't people watching, or to some person, and the person laughed and got whacked,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's good to laugh. I mean, when somebody did it to me once, then I was just like, well, go ahead then. Like,
well,
if you're going to do it, go
laugh
ahead,
or say that.
And they seemed shocked. They were taken aback. I could tell they were like, this isn't how I expected you'd react, or whatever.
When I say laugh, I meant the same thing. That's what they do with chuckles.
They didn't do anything. It was just, I guess, maybe they expected I'd be scared or something like that. But at that time in my life, I was very numb. So anyway, that was my reaction. And anyway, it's interesting. I seem to remember watching this before. This
Okay, new movie.
Eckhart Tolle.
What is it?
It's a.
Oh yeah, Eckhart.
So you've heard of this guy? Okay. Well, I was interested in finding out that it said British Columbia, Vancouver at the end of it. So I think that's where he lives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but this was filmed in Holland, I think. So I'm not sure, but at the end it said Vancouver, British Columbia, and I was like, okay, well I guess that must be where he lives then, if that's who's putting it out or whatever. But
It could be of Dutch origin, but
I don't know.
the name seems more German. But,
Yeah, well he sounded German, but I don't know.
Sometimes it's hard to tell
Yeah,
between Dutch and German. The Dutch folks roll their R's, so
oh,
that's one way to tell.
okay. Well, I wasn't.
The Germans,
I
what they
can't
do
remember.
is they turn it into a French R.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the Dutch will go R, R.
Interesting. So anyway, he's saying on the back, it says he discusses liberating ourselves from hundreds of years of mental conditioning without the need for more time, and eliminate the gap between what you want and what is. And anyway, so he's talking about appreciating
The now.
the now.
He wants to bring
right?
it to now.
So that's why my angels brought me these two movies to watch at the same time. And because I didn't know what I was picking out, I just pick out things on the return shelf. So at the library. And there's something to be said about actually appreciating what's going on right now, you know? And not having a sense, like he talks about, you wake up in the morning, you look out the window, and you have this sense of peace. You know, you enjoy looking out the window, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about, oh, I have to do this, I'm late, or da-da-da-da, and it just, you keep thinking about all these things that are pulling you away from actually appreciating life. Oh, you lost your tomato. He probably had them all.
That was the part I liked the best. I had a place for it. Anyway, animals live in the now.
Yeah.
And I'm suspicious of any philosophy that tells people to live in the now.
Yeah. Well,
Because-
one thing, he's talking about how when you start thinking things through, like he's talking about creativity and like emergency response and stuff, and how your thinking process or whatever just shuts right down if in an emergency, because you don't have time to think. So your true creative self or whatever actually springs into motion and does the rescuing of the baby that's about to be hit by the car or whatever, right? And he's talking about actually enjoying the spaces in between the words and stuff like that, trying to focus on that so that you're living a more zen life or whatever. And I don't believe in the whole process of zen. I don't believe in trying to achieve that, but I think that I do believe strongly that if I go to bed at night and I give my angels a rhythm that I want to, like if I want to write a poem that's a certain rhythm or about a certain topic, and I think I will usually wake up in the middle of the night with the start of the song or the poem or whatever. And it is because I think that my angels are a part of me. They're a part of like my brain, right? That is not my conscious self. And they're going to work on things while I'm asleep. because I mean, he's talking about different parts of your body. You're not conscious of your heart beating or whatever, but it gets the job done, right? Like you're made up of a whole bunch of living entities that take care of things. And I believe in that. I believe that, yes, I am made up of all sorts of, like, so many probiotic bacteria and so many this and that, and they're all alive. I'm a universe of a whole bunch of living things, and I'm connected to every living thing. I like to try to live my life so that I feel connected to the world, and I believe in that. But my angels know how to write the songs and the poems to the rhythm that I have taught them, because in my conscious days, I haven't just sat around trying to achieve Zen. I have tried to work. I've worked on things that I know my angels like to work on while I'm sleeping. They like to think of songs and stuff, because you might have a different calling that you do. And mine is songs. I love singing. And so the poems are a part of that. And I'm painting pictures right now, and I'm learning that. And my angels are probably learning something like that. When I'm sleeping, they'll work on things. Eventually they're learning it with me. I'm thinking about it, and I go to sleep thinking about it, and they're learning. So,
yeah.
And they help me. Is that how you feel about things?
To a large extent.
Yeah.
So we were given two hemispheres of our brain.
Yeah, and it's good to use both of them.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So you look at a lot of the folks who almost ruined Woodstock, which were the people who organized it, and to a large extent, the people who turned up, they were saved by the U.S. government. The hippies were so stupid, some of them were saying, they're seeding the clouds to cause rain. They were bringing in helicopters, and they were telling these goofy hippies who were stoned, don't get under them, because they were tossing down packages of food.
Yeah.
And that could have been an end. I was killed by a sack of rice or whatever. But they were actually saved by the U.S. military. It was military helicopters dropping stuff in. So, I mean, Lord knows how many people could have died. Only 2 people died. And one was a drug overdose. Weirdly, it was only one. And then one was sleeping in a ditch in a car who was trying to avoid the traffic jam. And drove over. So, this is for the guys out there. Women, I don't know what it would be like, but I'm thinking about my stereotypicals. So, guys, stereotypical guy likes sports. Canadian likes hockey. And the best I've seen of Zen when it comes to sports, any sport, is Wayne Gretzky. But his dad was training him probably from almost when Gretzky could walk. I suspect he was on skates, and his dad had been a minor leaguer or something like that, minor league goaltender, and he knew what drove goaltenders crazy. I think he was a goaltender, and if he was, he'd know what drove goaltenders crazy. And Wayne Gretzky, more than anyone else, would drive goaltenders crazy, because they'd never know, oh, he's going to shoot, oh no, he passed to someone else, and I left the net wide open. So they hang back and in the net, and they don't cut the angle. And Gretzky had a shot, you could actually see it flopping along, but it was accurate. You see it flop right into the corner of a net. And why would it do? Because the goaltenders tended to be back on him. Because you could pass to someone. You cut the angle. So Gretzky just lived in the moment. You hear him talk, it sounds dumb as a sack of hammers, as a sack of mallets. But he was, when it came to actually floating on the present or on the now, he was incredibly smart. I suppose jazz musicians are a little bit that way. They train themselves, and oh man, like the drummer can do all sorts of paradiddles. But, I wouldn't necessarily want them playing a score. They're making stuff up as they go along. I'm not a big fan of that sort of stuff. Sports, you don't have any choice. But I prefer composed music. It's, well, what can I say?
But in any case,
jazz sounds like soup to me.
He's all down. He's saying we have to act now. We're at a point in history where man actually has to worry about the environment and act now. And, we've been so concerned with making progress and this and that. And he's saying that the progress is a bad thing. And he says, now everyone, you go to Eastern societies, they're the West too. Everyone's really busy all the time, working hard, and they're unhappy and this and that. But
so what do we do? Go back to the days before the Industrial Revolution. You know what the population of the world was then? 1 billion maybe?
And
so do 7 billion people die?
So,
wow.
Progress is not the enemy. We have to make progress, but we have to make progress in our thought pattern. We actually have to be conscious about what we're doing, not just living in, I love this, whatever, living in. We have to actually think about how we're going to deal with situations, and part of that is certainly population control. At one point in this awful show,
did they actually talk really about population control?
It wasn't as bad as the Honolulu one. At Treasure Island was a little bit better. The mystery was a little more interesting, or whatever, I don't know, but the acting's still bad. So this was done in 1939, black and white. At one point, somebody is telling Charlie Chan about, I can't remember, it was a huge number of children he had, something like 13 or something, about, he was talking about that, how Charlie Chan had so many children or something. And, even that was a problem in 1939. People shouldn't have been having 13 children in They certainly can't be doing that now. That is, even if you are from a passive religion and you think that you are a passive person, if you are having 13 children, that's an aggressive act. That's aggressive on all of society that you live in, and all of the world, because you're taking food out of other people's life, and more humans equals less nature, and
for housing, you're taking down forests
away from all other life on the planet when you're having
not just
that
humans.
many children.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's absolutely shameful.
People have to be conscious.
If you want to commit suicide at age 30 and have guarantee that your kids do that, go ahead. But if you go and live the average life of Western society of something like 80 years and have that many kids, what you're doing should be made illegal. It's criminal. It's criminally irresponsible.
Elena. So this one was the subtitle movie. It says in Russian.
Wow.
Now, this was incredibly boring. It was so bad. It warranted the bottom of the stack. I don't know why it was made. Honestly, I can't see the point. There were some disturbing things that happened in it, but it was still boring.
What's it about?
Well, at one point, I was painting. So I'm watching a subtitle movie and I'm like,
oh, I see.
Honestly, I couldn't even be bothered to read the subtitles a lot of the time, right?
Well, you could get car sick, motion sick going down.
Yeah. So
Which
there's
Russian,
that,
right?
but honestly, it was bad. There was a woman's taking care of a man, and like I'm assuming that they're husband and wife, but they may not have been. And he has a daughter, which I don't think is hers. But she ends up killing him. She's like his nurse, and she gives him medication in his. Anyway, but and I think it was on purpose.
But
Anyway.
you don't know. Huh?
Well,
Okay.
it looked to be on purpose,
Yeah.
but she wasn't charged with it. So
Sometimes it's hard to tell.
anyway, okay. Well, I don't have anything else to talk about. You?
I'm enjoying this cupcake. I don't want to
So
ruin it.
you don't want to talk about the Manson stuff? I thought for sure you would.
Okay, just give me some talking points here.
What? I don't know what you'd want to talk about with this.
Well, I'm a little bit. You seem to like it, but I don't like the idea of kind of exploiting Sharon Tate. To a certain extent, I could say she asked for the exploitation, not to be murdered. Because she was, after all, an actor, right? And in Hollywood. She was in a sensational movie called The Valley of the Dolls. And there were a couple of good-looking women, but in it, there were 3 women. But the stunning one was Sharon Tate. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, Charlie Manson was stupid. His followers were stupid. Tex Watson, you look at pictures of him, maybe you can't tell. He was one of the troubles. You get people who are athletes. He was a record holder in hurdles, I think, for, it must have been high school or college, in Texas for several years. He was a fantastic runner. And of course, these poor people that were trying to fight off these Manson people, the Manson people couldn't believe how long the people lasted fighting. You know, they were getting stabbed multiple times. And but when you're going against an athlete like this, like Tex Watson, it's just sad. Anyway. Yeah, the house wasn't a big mansion. I figured it would be a mansion. It was sort of like a ranch-style home up in the hills, Hollywood. Do they call it the Hollywood Hills? Probably not. It's slightly away from it. But it's like that. You go northwest of Los Angeles, and the mountains get really close to the coast, the rough terrain, and that's where it's at. Now someone has bought it and turned it into a big mansion, you know, like they would have just ripped the house down and stuff like that. So it's kind of on this preeminent.
Well, I suppose they could have turned it into a freaky bed and breakfast for creeps, but who would want to live in it?
I know. At any rate, it's the mansion's just oversized for this little prominence. Anyway, it's typical for what was happening in the 60s. People who were drugged out